Good morning. It's really early here, and keeping lights off keeps the dogs calm, so I'm going to work with the lighting that I have. Um, this morning I was thinking about some recent events that have happened and how they were making me feel, and the subject of accountability came up for me because I had to admit to myself some truths about the way I have been treating myself. So I wanted to come on and talk a little bit about radical accountability, and what that means to me, and how I use that, especially on mornings like this morning where I have to hold myself accountable to myself. I think that it's important to start with this, in understanding that a lot of what we're talking about in spirituality and everything is really trying to make the subconscious processes in our mind conscious. It's how to get those two regions of the brain to talk fluidly to each other. Right? This is unity consciousness. You can also look at it as the right and left hemisphere, right? That's another way that we achieve unity consciousness, is learning how to code switch between those two regions. But I really want to talk this morning about the subconscious and how this impacts accountability. As a kid, we were given this concept of God, and even Santa Claus, right? He sees you when you're sleeping, he knows when you're awake. God counts every hair on your head. Like I even remember getting a warning when I was younger about how speaking things out loud gave the devil access, but only God had access to your thoughts. And I have a slightly different view on that now, but like all of these things about thought and external access to an internal processing, that always, I got it when I would hear things like that, but I didn't understand it then the way I do now. And it's my understanding now that helps me practice that accountability a little bit differently, because that thing that we're referring to, that sees us when we're sleeping, that knows when we're awake, that knows all of our own thoughts, that holds us accountable and keeps tally of everything, is our subconscious. There isn't anything that I can do to get away from that part of myself. That, when we talk about spirit guides and God keeping a ledger of our lives, keeping a list of all of the things that we do right and wrong, good and evil, and then that there's an accounting, a balancing on scales. I mean, even the ancient Egyptians talked about that, with the feather and the heart. That is our subconscious. We cannot get away from our subconscious tracking everything we do. And we can tell ourselves whatever story we want to externally. I can justify and explain away every single behavior I have with external motivations and reasons. But my subconscious knows when I'm lying. My subconscious knows when I'm acting against what I truly am here for, what I truly value. Right? That's what a calling is to me. It's alignment with my own value system. And when things aren't in alignment for me in my life, I feel called out of it, because my subconscious knows. It knows the truth of what I am and who I am. It is the truth of what I am and who I am. it's also absorbed a lot of the conditioning and programming around me. So, there's some filtering that has to go on. There's some work that needs to be done to strip away what isn't mine and isn't me that my subconscious has absorbed as identity. Um, but our body and our subconscious do keep the score, right? Our nervous system, so I'm going to adjust so I can turn a little bit. Our nervous system stores the stress. It reflects in our production of dopamine, serotonin, cortisol. So to say that the body isn't keeping score, like at this point in time, scientifically, it's ridiculous to think that we can make choices and that our body doesn't reflect. Sorry, I apologize. And that our body doesn't reflect our choices, right? Our vitality, my vitality for me is the biggest sign of whether I'm in alignment with what is true for me. And my truth isn't everybody's truth. I'm here for different things than everybody else. So even truth here, we try to treat it like fact. All of these things are subjective. They're all subjective. Facts change over time as technology advances. Truth changes and evolves over time. All it means is that you have ownership of it and it aligns with what your soul came to do. And your vitality will tell you if you are making decisions and choices that are in line with your truth, because your subconscious communicates with your body more regularly than your conscious, more easily than your conscious. We don't think about breathing and our heart rate. We don't think about, hey, I'm going to release dopamine now, or I'm going to release cortisol now, or I'm going to release adrenaline now. Those are all subconscious commands in our system. So radical accountability to me means that if I know that a part of me knows, and that when I am overthinking and when I am justifying and when I am explaining, even in my own mind, my subconscious knows. And that causes every single challenge that I face. Because even when things are hard, if I'm in alignment, I get through them without difficulty, right? Like I don't send my body into any kind of shutdown. My mind is able to see a path through when I am in alignment. There isn't the conflict and the contrast and the fight. So if my vitality is affected, if my experience with others in the world, my interface, is affected just by my dialogue between my conscious and my subconscious, then I have to take responsibility for the part that I can influence, which is my conscious. And this to me is where I jumped into the spiritual war. And I didn't do it outside of me. I've been doing it inside of me. I went to war with my own conscious thoughts, which means when a thought came up that caused my body to respond, when a thought comes up that I know isn't in alignment with my body, with my truth, with my values, which for me are love, joy, truth, honesty, truth and honesty, same thing, dignity and integrity, right? Love, honor, truth, dignity, integrity, joy. These are things that I have decided to focus on and cultivate in my own thought realm, my inner scape, my mental scape. And I went to war with every thought that came up that went against that. That is radical accountability to me. Every time I catch myself overthinking or talking myself out of an answer, I treat it like an assault on myself, for myself, which means I immediately stop it. I tell it no. I started treating myself like the child I was from the adult perspective of who I am now, right? And the kind of adult that I am now wouldn't let anybody treat any child that way. So if I wouldn't let it treat any other child that way, I don't allow it to treat myself that way. So I don't allow the negative thoughts to go unanswered. Does it mean that they don't pop up? No, they still do all the time. I'm human. It's going to happen. Contrast is going to come up. I'm going to have a body response trying to lead me to my truth. And my mind is really, really good at running probabilities, and not all of those probabilities are awesome. But if I catch myself circling and creating the emotional state, the state of being that goes against what I value, and love is the easy threshold, right? Love and joy. If those two are violated, they feel really icky. So then I look at myself, and what am I doing to myself? What am I treating myself with in my environment, in my thoughts? I apply it everywhere, but I quit looking outside. I stopped outsourcing my power to other things. It's too exhausting trying to control the weather, the economy, the politics, other people, my dogs. And all of that control of those things was me trying to send outward effort because I didn't want to look at it inside, right? Like I've been applying all of that control that I used to project outward to my thoughts. And that for me really started giving me more freedom in my life because I began cultivating an inner environment that I could live in. It doesn't mean that contrast doesn't come up. It doesn't mean that I don't have difficulty in relationships. It just means I stop looking at the other person. I treat people like my thoughts. I evaluate them against my values and go, do you fit? If they fit, they stay because I know that my body and my mind will benefit from their presence. My being will expand. Sometimes that means they're challenging, but that makes me grow. If it doesn't align with my values, I walk away. That isn't where I'm supposed to be. Everything in me is telling me this isn't mine, or it would line up. So I stopped trying to force puzzle pieces to fit. I learned that lesson as a kid, right? You can't force the puzzle pieces where they don't go and expect your puzzle to look nice. It's my speaker turning off. Sorry, I had to pause my other stuff in order to come on here and talk. So that's just my speaker telling me I've been talking for a while already. But anyway, I had a difficult morning. I had, well, not a difficult morning. I had a difficult day yesterday, and it left me feeling hurt. And I could have looked outside of me and said, it is these external things. It's their fault. And I'm not removing any responsibility. Other people choose their behaviors. They choose the thoughts they act on. But I was sitting here in quiet reflection, choosing mine. Like, I have to admit the ways that I am hiding behind energies that won't rise to meet me, because to let them go means that I have to open myself up to being visible again, because whenever you create space, there's room for new to come in. Well, new means uncertainty again. It means opening myself up to risk. And that is scary. So this morning I was looking at myself and holding myself accountable to the ways that I am hiding, the ways that I still run from being seen, because to be seen, to connect, invites risk. But to hide is still not being true to myself either, because I was built for connection. So I have to hold myself accountable and look at the ways that I am hiding. It doesn't mean that I have to change everything right away. I just have to quit lying to myself about what I'm doing. It is okay for me to be peaceful where I'm at in my solitude, with just the few things that are precious to me around me. That is okay. I just can't lie to myself about what it is. I have to point out and be honest to myself that right now I am hiding. I can't call that rest, because to call that rest would be avoidance. I have to call it what it is, and then I have to live in that truth, which means when something comes up in my day and the days following now, in my next now moment, when something comes up that offers me an opportunity to connect, such as doing a video because I felt like I had something to say this morning, am I acting on it or not? Because if I'm letting it pass me by, I'm still acting on that hiding, which isn't true to myself. So I have to balance that pendulum. I have to clear out what no longer serves me, remain open to the new, and then hold myself accountable to the truth of what I am doing. That has nothing to do with what's outside. That has nothing to do with the situation. It has nothing to do with other people or their responses to me. I quit caring about that part of things. It's not my garden. My garden is what happens within my own mind and with my own body. And when other things outside of me come into my field of awareness, it isn't about those things. It is about the choices I'm making in those moments. And there are only two choices: alignment or misalignment, truth or fear, truth or dishonesty, love or fear. And when you strip away all the nuance, it is all those things. The nuance, we have them, they're our story, but we over-identify with them. I make all of my identity the things outside of me. Then when things don't go the way I want them to for me, then I'm inflicting my will and my dream on others. I don't like doing that anymore. Other people don't want to live the life I'm living. They want to live their own. I want to live my life, so I have to quit projecting that outwards and outsourcing my power. But I can't lie about what I'm doing. If I am ignoring red flags in other people's behavior, I don't have to change what I'm doing, but I have to tell myself the truth about it. When I am ready, I can make the change in my own behavior, but I can't lie to myself about it in my thoughts. That's where we cause most of our problems in our experience. That is where the contrast takes root. Because when I allow myself to acknowledge that the behaviors of another person or the situation are causing me pain or harm, acknowledging that and making a choice to do something about it is the only healthy way to respond. Getting myself out when I need to get out, making the changes within myself, means addressing the choices I'm making that are betraying my values, right? Where am I not setting boundaries within myself? And boundaries even aren't something that I enforce on other people. They are like my evacuation map that you see in the hallways of buildings. It is what informs me of how I am going to respond, either by blocking or walking away or confronting my truth in a conversation. But it is my strategy for how I am going to respond. Their response to me doesn't matter. I have a strategy for that too. If their side escalates, my response to leave escalates, right? But this all requires radical accountability. And when I am radically accountable to my own mind, it gets quieter. And my mind is very busy. It's very fast. Meditation and mindfulness do not mean silencing my mind. It means silencing my investment in it. And what that means is that because I no longer identify, I don't attach my identity to every thought. That didn't stop them from happening. They are still running through all the time. I still deal with a mind that processes things non-linearly. I still deal with a mind that multitasks at any given moment, completely unrelated tasks. And sometimes that's amusing and sometimes it's not. But none of that stops. I just don't identify with it anymore. So instead of becoming a conversation with every single thought, because they're not all worth my attention, and I'm very choosy about where I spend my attention. That's my truth. They have become more like clouds, and that to me enables me to meditate anywhere because I have detached my identity from my thoughts. I choose which thoughts become my identity, and I solidify that choice by acting on them. And every time I make a choice consciously that aligns me with what my subconscious is revealing through my body and my vitality is true for me, it gets easier. It doesn't make the hard things stop, but the battle inside myself is less. I don't stay in these states of discontent as long. They pass like they should. I allow myself to sit in my feelings. This morning, I started the morning off crying before I came down and faced the world, and even mentioning it, I can feel it wanting to rise up again because I'm paying attention to it. And it will persist within me as long as I pay it attention and avoid the truth of what it is telling me. I don't really have any more to go off on that. I just thought it was helpful to me to be thinking about that and to be holding myself accountable to it, right? Like I realized today I'm hiding. And now I have to address that because now I am aware of it. Now I can look at it and how it is affecting me, and I can evaluate the areas in my life where it is having good effects. Like, where am I recovering and resting and doing the work that I need to for my soul's growth and expansion? And where is it holding me back? Where am I using it to cause myself harm? That's radical accountability. And if each of us practiced that within ourselves and chose inside of ourselves what aligned and what didn't, the Garden of Eden, naming the plants and the animals, naming those thoughts and those feelings as for us, working against our truth. What are they doing? We have to have that metacognition. And it takes practice and it takes work, but the amount the amount of integrity and dignity, I'm going to go back to those words because they're the only ones popping up. The amount of that now I feel like I live in for myself far outpaces the weight of any of the pain that I feel from the situations that happen. When these situations arise and they're challenging and they're difficult, and even when they come across as a negative assessment of myself, because I'm able to see them with that clarity and able to see where I need to make the adjustments in myself, they aren't as powerful in me as the clarity that I get from the evaluation is. Once I find that truth, like being able to say I'm hiding, that felt more freeing, and the power and that freedom that I felt of being able to identify that and address it, because once you name a demon, it loses its power. Right? All of these things that we describe outside of us are a reflection of an internal process. If it's eating at me, chomping at me, destroying my peace, contentment, and joy in my own mind, that is a demon. It is consuming what was meant for me and keeping me from my true source. And my true source is I love me. Myself loves itself. That's true, right? Anything outside of that is out of alignment. And I have to be able to evaluate that in order to respond to it. And so, anyway, I'm definitely rambling now. My thought stream is definitely in its own stratosphere now. So I'm going to let it do its thing and get back to its morning. I just needed to get that out, and I'm going to continue dealing with the things that have come up in my world today. But I'm going to deal with them better today because now I know my part. And that feels really good. Anyway, I love you. Have a good day. It feels like Monday to me, but it's Tuesday. So happy Tuesday. I hope your week goes well. Love you.